just stand for the word. We've been on this series of Rooted, and just looking at John 15, and we're going to go back there. We're going to stay there. There's some good stuff there. It was part of his last words that he gave disciples and for the church before he was crucified. This was after he's left the upper room area where they had the Last Supper and all that, and they're walking to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's began to speak to them these things. And this is what it says in John 15, verse 1. He said, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you." And then catch this becomes the theme. "Remain in me, as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit." I like that. Well, and isn't that just good and hopeful right there? If you remain, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, though, you can do nothing. Hey, tell your neighbor as you're being seated, just announce the sermon. It takes time. And just tell them that. It takes some time. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. You don't get the fruit overnight. It takes time. I don't like that. I want it now. It's like my money, and I want it now. But it takes time. It takes time. And Jesus is speaking at length about how we can bear fruit if we remain in him. However, as we want real-time results, come on. I mean, my goodness, I exercised this week. I should be fit by now. Right? I want real-time results. I start a budget now, so I should be on my way to being out of debt now, right? I mean, because I want real-time results. But God is after long-lasting fruit. Do you catch that within this? Where we want the now, God is after the long-lasting. And Jesus is really trying to, I think, speak something valuable to you that you have to understand. And that is this, is that faithfulness and fruitfulness are inseparable. I don't know if you got that. But faithfulness and fruitfulness are inseparable. In other words, if we remain faithful to him, we will be fruitful. If we remain faithful to him, we will be fruitful. It is part of it. You can't have the fruit if you don't have the faithful. You won't ever be fruitful in your life if you don't remain faithful. You can't have one without the other, and God is trying to speak this to you, that faithfulness and fruitfulness are inseparable. And I know there's parts of me that there's in life that few things are more frustrating to me when I find areas in my life that are not bearing fruit. You know what I'm talking about? When there's those unfruitful things, when I feel like I'm unfruitful in my life, there's not much more frustrating to me. I mean, it's one thing when I'm fruitful in wrong things because I sowed wrong seeds. I get that. I get that if I've done something that I shouldn't have been doing. I know I shouldn't have been doing this, and I bear the fruit of that. I get that, but when I'm doing the right thing, this is what I'm talking about. When I'm doing the right thing and I find myself and I'm being faithful in doing the right thing, when I'm still not bearing any fruit, that's when it seems to be the most frustrating thing, because I'm thinking I should be seeing results by now. Come on, are you with me? It's frustrating when I find myself being faithful and I don't see the fruit coming out of it. And perhaps what Jesus is wanting us to grasp here more than anything is that we will bear fruit. We will bear fruit if we stay connected to Him. However, it makes us just grasp and hold tight to a statement that you probably don't care for, and that is this: it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. It takes time. And I don't like it. I don't like it that it takes time. I want results quickly. And God's saying, I'm after long lasting. I'm after the good fruit. So it's going to take a little bit of time. You know, there's something that we're just born with. We're born naturally with, I believe this, just this desire to be fruitful. It's our human nature. It's in us. It's ingrained in us. I mean, we want to be fruitful. Come on, you want, if you're like me, you want this year to be better than last year, right? Come on, is that? Don't you? I mean, like, nah, I just want the same. No, I mean, I want this year to be better than last year. I want areas in my life to look better this year than they did last year. I want to be a better pastor than I was last year. I want to be a better spouse, husband than I was last year. I want to be a better father than I was. I want to see fruit in my life. I want the increase. I want more. There's just something about that we want the better within us, and I believe it's just ingrained in us. It's our human nature from the beginning. Think of it with Adam and Eve. When God made Adam and Eve, He blessed them, and this is what it said in Genesis 1:28. He told them then to be fruitful. It's on the screen if it gets up there. He said, be fruitful. In Genesis 1:28, there we go. He told them, be fruitful and increase, didn't He? Be fruitful and increase. This is the blessing that I'm putting over you. Be fruitful and increase. And we see that. And our desire then is we connect blessing with fruit and increase in our lives. So when there's the areas in my life that I'm not seeing increase and I'm not seeing the fruit, I think, well, there must be something wrong, because the blessing that's in me is I want to increase. I want to be fruitful. It's the mark of God's blessing. And it's natural then to equate success to our ability to increase something, because we crave this increase. Listen to me. It's understandable that this verse then in John 15:2 is what catches me. In John 15:2, He said this: He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes, so that it can be even more fruitful. Do you catch that? He cuts off every branch that doesn't bear fruit. He prunes every branch that does bear fruit. In other words, what He's saying, He cuts them both. You get cut either way. You get cut on if you're not fruitful. You get cut on if you are fruitful. He cuts you either way. And that's where it's difficult, when I'm doing something good and I'm getting cut on. When I'm bearing fruit in my life and I'm still getting cut on, I get it when that he cuts off areas in my life that I'm not seeing success. It's easy to accept that God will cut off the purposeless and the unproductive things in our lives. But it's difficult to accept why God would cut the parts in our lives that are actually bearing fruit. Come on. You're looking at me like I'm fine with it either way. I don't like it. When I'm bearing something, when I'm being fruitful in areas and I'm getting cut on, that's when it's tough. But I want you to catch something. He didn't say he cuts off branches that are bearing fruit. He cuts off the branches that aren't bearing no fruit, but the branches that are bearing fruit, he doesn't cut off, he just cuts back. So I can handle it if I realize it's just a cutback. I can handle it in my life if I realize it's just a cutback. He doesn't cut you off from him. He doesn't cut you off from his love. He cuts you back so that you can bear more fruit in the future. Come on, tell your neighbor, it's just a cutback. It's just a cutback. All those things that happen, listen, as long as you remain faithful, it's just a cutback. He's not cutting you off from it. He's just cutting you back so that you can produce more and get the increase in the fruitfulness that you're after. It's just a cutback. And I know it's tough and hard to understand when you're going through it. When we lived in Indiana, it was cold, by the way, there. You think it's cold this morning. It stayed that way all winter. So brutal. I was cold all the time. I don't even know where I'm going with that now. I just got shell-shocked right then. No. We had in our front yard, we had a rose bush. And a guy from our church, an older guy that loved to do gardening and all that kind of stuff. I mean, up there, they all love to do gardening. We tried it one year and that's the dumbest thing. That's a lot of work. Canned vegetables aren't that expensive. Right. Organic, overrated. Give me processed, I want it now. See, I'm telling you. That's one thing we learn with gardening. It takes time, and I ain't like it. But we had this rose bush in our yard, and he would come and he would take care of our yard. He said, Pastor, I want to do this for you. He'd take care of the church too, and he'd take care of our yard. And we had this rose bush that it would begin to bloom. And then Brother Don Flynn would show up with his pruning shears. And he would cut that rose bush back to where it was the ugliest little thing. It looked like it was by our steps, and it would be about this high, roses coming off of it. And Brother Don Flynn showed up, and it would be down to here. Just sticks, twigs, what looked like just coming off of it. It looked pathetic. It looked like, my goodness, Don, you just killed my roses. You just destroyed it. It was starting to bloom, by the way, Don. Why don't you just let the process go with that? I think it's going to be all right. It's being fruitful. And he cut that thing down to nothing, to where it just looked awful and pathetic. But underneath, what you didn't see is that it was still connected to a root system. And he didn't cut it off of the root system. He just cut it back. And yes, it looked ugly at the time, but you would give it a little bit of time. You would give it a couple weeks, a couple more weeks, and all of a sudden it would produce more roses than it was producing before. It was blooming bigger, and it would be this beautiful bush of just roses. Why? Because he didn't cut it off from the root, he just cut it back. And I'm telling you, you might be in a place right now where you feel like you've been cut on in some areas where I was producing a little bit, and then all of a sudden I lose my job. I'm being faithful to God, and all of a sudden I lost this. I was being faithful to God, and all of a sudden this got cut off from my life, and that got cut off from my life, and I'm struggling with what's taking place. But I'm telling you, it's not being cut off from him. It's just a cutback. And if he cut you back, you will grow back to bigger, to greater, to stronger. You'll be more fruitful in your life. I'm telling you, it's just a cutback. And it's going to take time, but he knows what he's doing. Here's our job, is that I remain, and he has the scissors. So yes, life can cut at you, but listen to me, understand that just as life is cutting at you, know who has the scissors in his hand. It's God who has it, and he's doing precision cuts in your life, and he's getting this area out of your life, and that area out of your life, and this thing out of your life, so that you can produce even more and more and more and more. Listen, it's just a cutback. But if you remain faithful to him, you will produce. It's just a cutback. You know, and here's the great thing, because I love that he has the scissors. Because I don't always know where to cut in my life. I wish I did. But there's a lot of things in my life that I think are good that aren't God. And it's hard for me to perceive what is good and what is God. And the devil will present a lot of stuff in your life that it looks good, but it's not God. And he'll get you attracted to some things that look good, that this will be a good thing for me, but you realize if I continue in this, that it will lead me down a path that I don't want to go down. So what does God come and do? He says, look, you remain in me. I'll cut some stuff off of that. I won't even give that an option. I'll cut that out. And it's hard for me to do that. If I'm the one making the decisions, I'll miss some stuff. It's hard for me to perceive it all. And I've learned in my life that it gets harder and harder in that. And look at that verse again, John 15:2. It said, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit. Wow. And that word caught me. Wow. Every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. It caught me because I don't like wow too much, not in every circumstance. You know, wow can have some double meanings. In other words, wow can be like a time period. For instance, in Hebrews, let me throw this one up, Hebrews 10:37, it says, in just a little while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. In just a little while. Now that sounds great. But I've learned that God's little while, and my little while isn't the same thing. Come on. In fact, it gets hard to trust God's little while. Especially when Peter says that to God, 1,000 years is as a day. And a day is like, oh my goodness, I'm calculating 15 minutes. That's like 20 years of my life to you then or something. So I don't always trust the while. And I don't like the while. I don't want things to take time. I want the things now in my life. But while in that circumstance in John 15:2, it can be a distraction. In other words, it's while can be doing two things at the same time. And one of the hardest things I've learned in my life, and I think I'm getting better at it as I've aged and as I've gotten older, and now I'm older than I want to be. Well, not really. I mean, I like living, so. But with some age, it's come that I've learned a few things, and one of the hardest things, it seems like, is determining what needs to be cut back so that other things can grow. Because I've learned now I cannot be consistent in everything. I can't. But I can be consistent in what matters most in my life. Are you catching me? And the distraction of the wiles of the enemy, he'll try and get you to look this way or that way. And in my life, I'm trying to figure out now more what's really worth my while. Come on. Is this thing that I'm doing, is this really worth my while? Is this where I'm going to bear the most fruit? Is this really worth my while? And I've got to learn to distinguish. This might look good, but it will take away from this in my life that is really most important. And this I can't have hindered in me. So I've got to focus on what is worth my while so that I can produce the fruit that God is after in me. Yeah, I think the one that embodied this the most in Scripture that I love, and it's Nehemiah in the Old Testament. Nehemiah, he had a limited amount of time. Here he is, he's pretty high up with the king of Persia, and he's telling the king of Persia about his homeland and the city of Jerusalem that they've got back, but the wall has been just dismantled through years of wars and being overtaken by the Babylonians and then the Medes and the Persians and all of this, and it's just in ruins. And Nehemiah has limited amount of time and a limited amount of resources to do one big job that is the most important thing, and that is to build and secure the wall around Jerusalem. In other words, he is so driven, so focused that a wall that was able to stay flat for years, he's able to come in and rebuild it in days with the people around, because he was so focused on his while, on what really mattered, what really counted. And everything else could just go to the side because it just mattered at that point. And he even gets to the point saying, look, the enemy's going to try to attack us while we're building this. So while some of you guys are building, other guys will be guarding. While you're building, this one's got the sword. And we'll go in shifts because the wall can't stop. And then the enemy then tried to distract him. And here's what it said. They sent messengers to him. And in Nehemiah 6:2 it said, then Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message. Come, let us meet together in one of the villages in the plain of, oh no. That gets us, doesn't it, a lot of times? The enemy tries to get us to places of, oh no. Oh no. No, not in my life right now. Oh no. And I like this because it said, but they were scheming to harm me. So watch his response. So I sent messengers to them with this reply. I'm carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while, do you catch that? While I leave it and go down to you. Why should I stop doing this while I do that? Why should I stop doing this while I get drawn to this? And what I'm trying to tell you is some of you have stopped doing some things last year because the while over there got you distracted at what was most important. Some of you came off your walls while you went down and entertained some people in oh-no's. Some of you got distracted off of your walls while you got over in here and messed around with this and messed around with this, and you thought it would be good, but the while has been distracting you. And God has a way that when He has the scissors in my life, if I just remain committed to Him and the drive that He's put in me and the focus of what is really worth my while, what He has planted within me and my purpose within me, if I remain in that, I'll let Him do the cutting. I just stay focused on the purpose on the wall. Come on. So I've got to tell myself, I've got to ask myself, is this really worth my while? Because you have a God out there that's saying, be fruitful and increase, but at the same time, you have an enemy that says, be fruitless and decrease. That's what he's wanting out of you. So the enemy will distract you and pull you from this thing and that thing. He'll distract you to pull you off what is really worthwhile in your life. But if you remain in Jesus, while the enemy's trying to distract you, God does the cutting instead. He does the cutbacks so you'll produce what matters most. But listen to me, it takes time. It takes time. And I want Shelby, Carlos, will you guys come back up? It takes time. It takes time. And I know we want things suddenly. I know we want things all of a sudden. In fact, I love the scriptures. I like to preach on the suddenly. I love to preach on like Pentecost and they were in the upper room and suddenly a sound from heaven. I mean, I love the suddenlies. I want the suddenlies. Y'all would be more excited if I was preaching on the suddenly. I get it. I understand that. Y'all would be like jumping up and down. I need my miracle now, suddenly. But it takes time. Things don't happen all of a sudden. You see, another part I think Jesus is really trying to tell you, let you know, is He's the vine. He's not the vending machine. The vending machine, I can get it now. The vine, it takes time. The vine, I've got to remain. The vine, I've got to stay attached. I've got to stay faithful. But here's the great thing. Just as the fruit doesn't happen overnight, you'll look at one day and it will seem like, and all of a sudden, I'm producing. But really it was from faithfulness of remaining faithful to Him that I begin to produce. I want you to stand with me. I got caught up in wows and went looking in Scripture And there's another one I found that I just liked, because I think it's so fitting. Some of you might be in this place. In John 20:1, this was when Jesus has been buried in the tomb. And it said, early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw the stone that had been removed from the entrance. Listen, and this caught me. It's what you do while it's dark that matters the most. Anybody can have the faith in the light. Anybody can have the faith to be faithful when it's all going right in their life. But how do you respond while it's dark? How do you respond in the dark moments of your life? Are you still have the faith to get up early and go to a tomb to see if he's there or if he's risen? Do you still have that kind of faith? Do you have the faith while it's dark that gets things done? Now I'm telling you, listen, if you want to be fruitful in your life, in your dark places in your life, you have to have the faith that while it's dark, I'm still remaining close to him. Wow, it's dark. And you might be in a dark season right now. And it might feel like you've been cut off. And it might feel like the pruning shears are just going at you and life is just taking its toll. But listen to me, if you remain faithful, God knows what he's doing, and the light's going to shine one day. It's going to come out and you will begin to bloom and you will begin to produce and you will be fruitful if you remain in him. The wiles. And then let me give you one more, Romans. That God demonstrates his own love for us in this way. That while I was a sinner, he didn't wait for me to get good before he gave his life for me. But while I was a sinner, he died for me. Come on. And I don't know where you're at right now, but I know this, that in your while, God can show up and attach you to him. And if you remain, your life will change and you'll begin to produce the fruit that you so desire. It takes time. I want you to bow your heads with me.